happen, that already is problematic. And what they say for Islam is the draining of the blood. In addition to that, it's proven that when you say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and you of course treat the animal humanely, it allows the release of all the blood. It helps the animal be calm. In all other instances of meat slaughtering process, they stun, shoot, or they just suddenly kill the animal. When they cut the head off of a cow or something, they cut the whole thing off, which means that they cut the spine. When they cut the spine, the animal is paralyzed. When it's paralyzed, the nerve system will not allow the blood to flow. And that's why halal meat should look more dull compared to the meat in the markets. It's unfortunate that, yes, every meat supplier is doing the same thing. You will not find that anywhere else when it comes to plumping and stuff. And that's why I believe, it's my personal opinion, that we need to start becoming self-sufficient on our food. Because it's just, it's a very dangerous cycle. The amount of lead and the amount of, metals that are being inserted into our body through different means are actually messing up our psychological system, our ability to think. It is leading towards high concentration of lead in the brain, and it's not good. And it's hard to understand that in a world where we live, that food is such a luxury. There's food everywhere. How could you not enjoy food? Well, go back to the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu and much after from that point, people didn't enjoy the bathroom. They didn't enjoy food. They ate food and they went to the bathroom. Nowadays, the bathrooms are part of the houses, which 100 years ago was not the case. Bathrooms are outside of the house. And they were not fancy because you go, you use a bathroom and you leave. So we have changed how life functions. That's why it's so hard to look back and realize what the reality is. So yeah, it's and no other company is immune to that. You look at Tyson, Purdue, you look at Halal Crescent, they're all doing the same thing. And yeah, it's dangerous.
Even the Halal Crescent?
Yeah, they all plump. If you're looking at all the chicken legs the same size, it's not haram to plump. Again, the animal's killed, halal way, but then they, you know what they do, like for example, in Qurbani time in back home countries, people go for a Qurbani, they look for the big animal, right? Because they want the most for their money. But what many of them do is that they feed the goats or the sheep baking soda water. That swells them up. So you're like, oh, mashallah, this is a big, healthy one. And you go slaughter it, and then it's all gone. It's like, what happened to this thing? What happened was it was water-based. And when you slaughtered it and it bled out and it left that water left its system, the meat is just nothing. So this is all techniques for marketing purposes because they're making their money. They want to make more money. That's what it's all about. And again, if you go find a desi chicken or one of those free-range chickens and you slaughter them, the meat of the chicken is usually a bit hard, but it has a lot of taste to it. And it's not that thick. There's no chicken breast. Their legs are the most meat may be around the upper part of the leg, but there's not much to it compared to nowadays. So yeah, these are, and again, sodium and lead. If you focus on these two products, how much sodium is in our food and how much lead is in our food, you'll be amazed what it's doing to our bodies. Yeah, unfortunately. Anyone else, inshallah? We're good? Any question pertaining to the discussion that we're having or anything else, inshallah? Everyone's good?
Nowadays, people are saying that, oh, this is Jabiha halal or halal meat, the thing. You say Bismillah in it.
So, in my class, the holistic class, in the holistic class, we address that concept, say Bismillah and eat, and saying Bismillah before you eat is a sunnah. And the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a farad. And the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran refers to saying Bismillah when you slaughter it, not when you eat it. And so when you look at all those verses in an unbiased way, and again, it's an unfortunate reality. The fatawas and the rulings of foreign country scholars have ruined this country. Someone's bringing fatwa from Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Egypt. And this fatwa, Bismillah, eating is from Egypt. And all it has done is ruin the minds of our people because, Everywhere I go, like I see people sitting down. I was in Houston Saturday. I was in Houston for a few hours for the Nisa conference, and got to airport, went, gave my speech, got back to airport, and then flew here for the TMWF. But subhanallah, at the airport, I'm seeing our Muslim hijabi sisters eating Chick-fil-A and stuff. I'm like, it's you can't explain it anymore. You really can't explain it. If you go explain it, people get defensive. It's chicken, it's halal. And so the understanding of how something may not be correct has left us. You dare challenge what I'm doing. I'm doing what I'm doing is right. So it's very sad. It is very sad. But again, there's no justification to that. There really isn't. Saying Bismillah before you eat the food is a sunnah. You should do it. Yeah. And everything we do, we should say Bismillah too. That's right. Alhamdulillah. Any last questions, inshallah? Anyone? We're good? Okay, so I want to begin by talking about something this afternoon, and I just want to share my thoughts. It may have nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but just to create some level of understanding, because these things continue to happen ever so often. We seldom hear things or witness things that create in us some type of emotions. And those emotions dictate immediate judgment. So if I saw a sister cry right now and she's like, this happened, my family did this, oh, family is so wrong, right? Or I went to the car park and I tried to open my door and someone pushed my door. Oh, that person is such a mean person, right? We see something, we hear something, and right away we perceive something. This is human nature. And in human nature, what happens is that perception then becomes solidified that when we do meet the opposite party, we meet them with that judgment. A tyrant husband, bad children, bad sister or brother. It's in our head. Why? Because we heard something or we saw something that made us believe something. Now, there's two things we have to understand in regards to this. The first thing is what the Prophet Muhammad said, "Min husni Islamil mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'ni." From the beauty of one's Islam is for them not to indulge in things that have no benefit to them. Now, if someone is battered and bruised and bleeding or scared or something, then it becomes our responsibility to help and to be there. But until that time, if we personally are not able to do something and we assist those people by getting in touch with people who can assist them, then at that time we wash our hands from these things. Unfortunately, what happens is that we feel that we have a moral obligation to continue the rhetoric that we heard. I'm not saying the person is wrong, but I'm telling us all that we can't say they're completely right. So the Prophet Muhammad said, whatever isn't beneficial to you, don't get involved in it. It's from the beauty of your Islam that you let go of things that don't matter to you. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't matter to someone else. Let the other person handle it. And if you are to feel that this matters to you, then it's imperative. It is imperative that you hear both sides of the story before you form an idea or a thought process. What this does, my fellow sisters, is this breaks the ummah. It will break a home, it will break a couple, it will break children and parents, it will break a community, and it is already breaking the whole ummah. So we have to be very careful when we think from the line of our emotions. And we should resort to thinking from the line of our spiritual lens. And Rasulullah would never listen to a person, but then listen to the other person before he passed a judgment. And this unfortunately plays out many times in different scenarios, through different times and periods. This would play out, and we may be witness to something. You know, we may see someone smashing into a tree and falling out of the car, and they're pleading for help, and we're going to run there and pull them away from the car before the car explodes, and then the cops are going to come and grab them and pin them down and arrest them, and you're like, how barbaric are you? Well, you saw that this person stole the car. This person drove the car into a tree and is hurt, but the cops know this person stole the car. And the cops know that this was a criminal on a run. So how two people see the story is different. So never, ever, ever, and this is a personal advice today to the sisters and to myself, that we jump the emotional gun and start listening, spreading, being a part of discussions that either don't relate to us, but if it does relate to me, then I need to hear both sides before I spread it further. Because every Muslim brother and sister is responsible for their ear and their tongue. If you heard something, how you speak of it to the next person, you're equally responsible. So this is a very important lesson that we are reminded over and over again. I thought it's important to share that here today with the sisters also, and I'm planning to share it, inshallah, with the brothers on Friday. Inshallah, the families on Friday. But nevertheless, this is a very important thing that we should keep in the back of our head. So, mashallah, moving forward, alhamdulillah. Any questions, inshallah? We're good? Okay, so moving forward, we ended Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala Rasul al-Kareem. We ended, mashallah, last week with the discussion of exercising regularly. And I wanted all of the sisters to take up the task to study online or to Google, whatever they want to do, what type of exercise that they feel they can do based on their health. I am not an expert in that, nor do I have the right to say do this or that, because people's health have to be put into consideration when they do the exercises. But we learn that to stay healthy is a means of staying energized. It's a means of staying spiritually fit, and it also is the seed behind our physical, emotional, and spiritual beauty and strength. And it keeps our immune system strong. So becoming lazy, lacking that drive or morale to do anything is counterproductive, as we know, and it's not what Islam wanted us to become. And that's why we tackled food. There must be something in our foods that is leading us to feeling this way. If you eliminate those foods, you will see how you feel. And that's why, and I don't say this much, but what I tell people is the people who are close to me, just discard everything that you're eating and start with one thing. So start with, for example, rice. If you still feel bad with rice, do bread. If you're still feeling bad with bread, then stop and do vegetables. If you're feeling good with vegetables, add a little meat. Like, play your food cycle until you come to realize these foods make me feel real good. These foods make me feel so lazy. These foods make me feel so bad. And when you have the ability to do that, you will start weaning away from those comfort foods, because America wants us to have comfort food, right? Every commercial is about those chocolates or that special K instead of chocolates or that yogurt or whatever, right? They're looking for comfort food. Comfort food isn't food. It is food that your body is craving because it's become addictive to something it's not supposed to have. And if you can tame that addiction for 2 minutes, just say you're craving salt. I want to go have something salty. And for 2 minutes, if you can fight that, I promise you that craving is gone. If you're craving sweet right now, you're like, I want to eat something sweet, but you tame that for 2 minutes. I'm not going to. I promise you, it's gonna let you go. Why? Because these are things your body is craving that it shouldn't have. And so it's all a matter of you taking control of your body and your stomach, not allowing your mind through the stomach to control you. And what that does then, it takes away barakah, it takes away halal and haram. All these things go down the wrong path when we become a slave to our stomachs. And never become a slave to your stomach. It's not the best thing. So exercise was important. We're moving forward from there. Keeping the body and clothes clean. We talked about it in the beginning, where the story of Rasulullah ﷺ telling the Sahabas to look nice and dress nice and all that was explained. But what is the overarching theme for that? Are we keeping ourselves looking good for who? We tend to look good if someone's coming to the house. We tend to look good if we're going to someone else's house. We tend to look good or dress up if we're going to a function. We seldom look good if it's for the family, or if it's for the spouse, or if it's for the children, or if it's for the parents or in laws. There are times when we feel we need to dress up for people. But what happens on the other times? It's like, who cares? If my hair is not done, if my hijab is not right, if I'm wearing the same clothes for the last 3 days, that's perfectly fine. But then you feel the need to change it out. Why is that? That is because you feel that you need to give a different level of who you are to a people in comparison to yourself. How we dress, how we are in our body, in our clothing, should be such that we can walk out of the house right now with it. If I'm even wearing my pajamas and the pajamas are clean, my body is clean, and I feel comfortable, I could walk into Kroger's with my pajamas. I'm not going to say, what are people going to say? Because I feel comfortable with it. I'm happy with it. But nowadays you'll see people, of course that phase is now going, you'll see people walking into stores and CVS or somewhere, and they look so down. Their clothing looks so bad, their body looks so bad, there might be even an order, and they're just like, I don't care anymore. So what is the downward spiral? If you're doing it for people, I promise you people don't care. The only time they'll talk about what you wore, how you smelled, is one of two ways. That perfume smelled bad, that dress looked like a clown, or that person must have stole that perfume somewhere. They don't care. Remember, pleasing the people will never bring you satisfaction. Now, if it's for family, family don't see you through those clothings. They see you for who you are. If it's spouse, then to be at one's best appearance at all times for spouse and children is something you're doing for a personal reason, not for them. And lastly, that thing for yourself is because you're always clean, you're always looking nice, you're always smelling nice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if I'm going to die right now, and just say no one could give ghusl to my body and soul is ready to go meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now imagine how we do this culture shift. The culture shift is how we have to present in front of people and how we have to present in front of Allah. If I'm doing this to present in front of Allah, people like it or don't, they acknowledge it or not, they laugh at it or they commend it, it's none of my business. I'm still happy because I am clean for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So part of your rooted spirituality with Allah is that self-care defines that you keep your body and clothing clean. The Muslim woman who truly follows the teaching of Islam keeps her body and clothes very clean. She bathes frequently in accordance with the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who advised Muslims to take baths, especially on Fridays. So not only have we been advised to do wudu every day, multiple times, but then to also take a bath, and the least should be once a week. That Friday should be the excuse for Allah that I'm taking the bath. And not only do you take a bath because you're doing it for Allah, but this is also, mashallah, an ibadah. So the Prophet Muhammad said, have a bath on Friday and wash your heads, even if you are not in the state of janaba, and wear perfume. Rasulullah is telling all the Muslims to do that. Now, when it comes to women and perfume, yes, women should wear perfume. It should be more confined to herself and to her home. But if it's something very strong in scent, it shouldn't be something that they take outside. Because if there are two attractions from you, then it could call the curse of Allah on you. One is, of course, the perfume scent, which lures people. Now, sisters could say, well, men wear perfume that lures women. If that's the case, then that level of perfume should not be worn. And number two is the attraction towards oneself. So the Prophet ﷺ talked about, for example, the anklets which make the noise, or the anklets do not exist anymore in our cultures, but the high heels do. Those click, 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 click is an eye turner. And if that's the case, then these things could call the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon a person. So do take a bath. There's nothing you should. It's part of our ibadah. And also wear good clothing and also wear perfume. But again, it shouldn't be such that others are attracted to us through it. Rasulullah also said, whoever attends Friday prayer, man or woman, should take a ghusl. Now, understand the difference between ghusl and bath. When we say bath or shower, nowadays we don't even use the word bath, we use shower. Shower has to be understood. Traditionally, those tubs still exist, and going in and out of the tub is not a bath or a shower, nor is it a ghusl. Standing under a shower for 5 minutes isn't a ghusl, it's a shower. A ghusl means where you deliberately wash every part of your body and every hair on your body meticulously to the roots of your head, using soap, using shampoo, whatever you need to. This is called a ghusl. In addition to that, to gargle and to put water in your nose, this makes it ghusl, meaning washing the entire body, purpose-driven, not just standing there. The half my hair is washed, half isn't, or just my body's washed. No, ghusl means washing everything top to bottom. That I'm going to clean every part of my body today because this is what Rasulullah SAW told us to do for Friday. If you're not attending Friday prayer, that does not mean you should not take a ghusl. For those from the sisters who don't come for Jum'ah and they are at home, and because Jum'ah is not mandated on the sisters as it is on the brothers, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't come. The sisters who don't come still should not deprive themselves from the first hadith, is to take the bath on Friday. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ placed such a great emphasis on cleanliness and bathing that some of the Imams, some of our scholars, considered performing ghusl before the Jumu'ah prayer an obligatory. So some of the A'imma, some of the scholars say actually taking the bath isn't a sunnah, it's an obligation, it's a wajib. Now you'll say, how can we do that? So some of the scholars do say, take a bath, wear your good clothing, and come to Jumu'ah and pray with that same tahara. You became clean, you should pray with that same cleanliness. Well, if I'm at work and I go home and take a shower and come for Jumu'ah, that's 2 hours, right? Driving home, taking a shower, changing, going to Jumu'ah, that's 45 minutes to an hour, then come back and then change again, go back to work. It's not possible. Okay, fine. I'll come to the masjid and change and then take a ghusl. Well, we'll need to create 20 showers here. What's the best way of doing this? You take a bath either the night of or the morning of Jumu'ah. You take that ghusl if you're working, and you wear your best clothing, even if it's your work clothing, that's perfectly fine. And you could keep maybe something in the car to slip on when you come to the masjid, but you go with the intention that this is for Jumu'ah. If your wudu breaks, if you use a bathroom, you have to make wudu again, that's perfectly fine. But not everyone could fall into this criteria at all times. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu reports that the Prophet Muhammad said, it is the duty of every Muslim to take a bath at least once in 7 days. It is a duty of every Muslim to take a bath once every 7 days and to wash the head and the body. Understand, why did Rasulullah emphasize on this? Because this wasn't a known practice, nor was this the norm. And we see within Europe, as I said last week, Europe until now, for some, taking a bath every day isn't a practice. They don't. And back in the days, what we call the medieval days, they took a bath twice, Christmas and their birthday. Understand, this is something that Islam shuns. This is something Islam detests. We don't stay in that state. You can make wudu 5 times a day, that's fine, but that doesn't absolve you from the responsibility of taking a bath. Taking a bath washes where wudu and istinja doesn't wash. So it is the duty of every Muslim to take a bath once every 7 days, and that's the minimum. Right? That's the minimum. You can't go below that. and that entails washing the head and the body. Cleanliness is one of the most essential requirements of people, especially women, and one of the clearest indicators of a sound and likable character. Cleanliness makes a woman more likable not only to her husband, but also to other women and her relatives. So you're doing it for Allah, but cleanliness brings about the angels. Angels bring about protection. Protection brings about, a barrier from evil eye and bad thoughts and bad actions. And this will bring the love in the hearts of people. What is it? Cleanliness. Imam Ahmad and Imam Nasa'i reports that Jabir radiallahu ta'ala said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to visit us and saw a man who was wearing dirty clothes. He said, could this person not find anything with which to wash their clothes? Like the Prophet sallallahu openly expressed his discomfort when someone came with dirty clothing. And it is so sad that our cultural religion back home, we consider someone fana fillah, someone who's lost with Allah, and they're dirty, and they are just, lost in the world, and this person because they love Allah. No, don't say that person loves Allah. Because if a person loves Allah, they would follow what Rasulullah SAW told us to. Cleanliness is a half of our religion, yes? At-tuhuru shatrul iman. Cleanliness is half of our faith. You cannot tell me you're practicing your religion and you're dirty. Remember when we were in India traveling, we saw on the roads in certain cities these so-called what the Hindus define as religious people, long hair, and they're walking naked. And you say to yourself, what are these people? And you're told that these are the most religious people. And that same thing has come into our Islam. You're just disgusting, filthy, haven't washed your clothes, your white looks like brown, you think it's beige. And you're saying this is Islam? What is it meant in tawaf and umrah and hajj? You don't take a bath. What does this mean? You are in ihram for umrah for 12 hours. You're in ihram for hajj for 2 days to 3 days, yes? Rasulullah said 7 days, right? Now what people have done, na'udhu billah, they're saying, no, how can you come to Allah dirty, come to Allah clean? So wear your ihram, take a shower before going Arafah, use soap and shampoo, even though it's unscented, use it and go. But the hadith clearly states that Allah wants to see you on those days in desperation, where you don't care of how you look, how you smell, how your hair is done, because you're coming to Allah saying, Allah, I'm here. No one reaches a peak of Everest and says, okay, let's stop here, let's open a salon, let's do nice hair and everything else, let's perfume up, because we can stand on top of Everest and say, here I am, Everest. No. You get to Everest peak in the most sweatiest, smelliest state, but you don't look at the mirror. You'll take a recording or a selfie there because how you look, you appreciate it. It shows how much struggle you made. When you go to Allah and you put the ihram on from Dubai or from New York or from anywhere else, now you're going to Allah. How you smell for these hours, Allah doesn't care. Because Allah wants to see, are you coming to me in desperation? Or are you coming to me to show me who you are? That's why the hadith says, Allah says to angels, oh angels, look at my servants. Their disheveled hair. They have ghubar. कहते हैं ghubar alud kapde. Their clothes are full of dust. Their white ihram has become mud. But they don't care. They're coming to me with so much happiness. They only want me. What is the reward for them? This is what the conversation Allah's having with the angels. He explains and he defines us. He describes us like this. But it's so amazing that where we're supposed to be fana fillah, we want to look professional. And we're supposed to be professional, we want to be fana fillah. When Allah's given us the days to do ibadah and read Quran, we don't crave it as much as the times when we're not in tahara and we can't worship Allah. This is the game Shaitan plays with us. why shouldn't I go to the masjid? No. Allah's given us days to and given us days not to. Why should I not look good? No, those are times you're supposed to. These are times you're not supposed to. And so to keep those checks and balances, where Rasulullah ﷺ is talking about cleanliness of clean clothing and clean bodies, and then perfume to add to that, this is in all states, right? The Prophet ﷺ hated to see people come out in public wearing dirty clothes when they were able to clean them. He drew attention to the fact that the Muslim should always be clean, smart, and pleasing to look at. Remember the hadith that the people complained to, it was Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, of how the governor of Makkah was never coming out during the day. They're saying that this guy comes out late. He doesn't take care of our needs properly. They have 4 or 5 complaints. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala asked him, why the people have these complaints against him. So out of all the complaints, he answered all of them, but I remember the one faintly was, he said that he has only 1 pair of clothes. And every morning after Fajr, he washes those clothes. His wife gives him her dupatta or hijab. He covers his body, he washes the clothing, he hangs them. Once they're clean and dry, he wears them, and then he goes out to the service of people. Look at that. He could have said the Khilafah responsibilities supersede the responsibility of clean clothes. Did he do that? No. Until the sun wouldn't come out and those clothes wouldn't dry, he wouldn't get out to the people. He would make sure that his clothing resembled that which the Prophet ﷺ wanted us to look like. So whatever we wear, so long we are comfortable going out in public with that when it comes to its smell, its look, then that's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ wanted us to wear at all times. Not to have like a raggedy clothes at home and then having to dress up. Because I promise you, if you're going to keep on doing that, every year that passes in your life, it's going to be so hard to transition. From a raggedy look to how the people want me to look, it's going to take you from 5 minutes to 2 hours. I have to dress up because we have to go. No, it shouldn't take long to dress up. And it shouldn't take long to get clean because we're always supposed to be clean. It's part of what our religion teaches us. This teaching, which is directed at men, is directed even more so at women, who are usually thought of as being more clean, the source of joy and tranquility in the home. There is no doubt that the woman's deep sense of cleanliness reflects on her home, her husband, and her children, because it is by virtue of her concern for cleanliness that they will be clean and tidy. So what the author is saying here, it is ever more so important for women to take on these teachings because how they treat the home. And women are not the slaves of the home, but yes, the home is a woman's castle, right? We want to have our castles, but then we want to say, no, I don't care about the home. No, it's your castle, you own it, you live it, and then you direct the family members of how they should take care of it. Doesn't mean a woman has to clean up the whole house. Everyone should participate in the cleanliness. Everyone should participate in the chores of the house, but she runs that castle. Since she runs that castle with a higher sense of understanding and devotion, that means how she keeps the house or the castle is how the family will keep themselves. No researcher of whatever era or country can fail to notice that this teaching, which encourages cleanliness and bathing, came 1,500 years ago at a time when the world knew next to nothing of such hygienic habits. In those days, and until the 1900s, hygiene was not known to the people. Hygiene wasn't a teaching. Nowadays, you look in the airports and stuff, if you cough in your arm, if you're in the hospital, hand sanitize. Why are we teaching these things still? Because hygiene isn't the common practice of all people. If you don't believe me, drive out to the countryside of Texas. There's no such thing as hygiene. It's disgusting. It is very disgusting. And this is America. America has many parts of it which are very disgusting. Washing your hands after food, not a thing. Going to sleep with your shoes on that you came from outside from the country, nothing. Eating from the same plate that you've been eating in the whole week without washing it? Nothing. It's disgusting. So 1500 years ago, if you go back in time, there was no hygiene habits or practices embedded within society. They never had a hand sanitizer outlet outside the Kaaba when they were coming from travel that they would hand sanitize. These teachings were not there. But our deen taught us to wash ourselves. Our deen taught us to make wudu. Our deen taught us to take ghusl. Our deen taught us to cut our nails. Our deen taught us how to groom ourselves. Everything was taught in our deen. Why? Because hygienic habits stem from Islam. Remember this, it stems from Islam. 1,000 years later, the non-Muslim world had still not reached the level of cleanliness that the Muslims had reached. If you go back and look at the Mughals' Red Fort, and you go look at Humayun's tomb in Delhi, and you look at these places where the reminiscence of the so-called Muslim world once ruled and they governed, you will find their hammams, their baths. And I remember reading on Humayun's thing that the bath where they took a bath, where they used different types of leaves for cleanliness, rose petals and these different leaves to cleanse a person. A very unique practice at a time when who cared, right? Who cared about cleanliness? No, our deen taught us. It's a part of my religion to be clean. In her book, Min al-Riqaq ila Siyada, From Slavery to Sovereignty, Samiha Wirdi says, and I quote you her words, "There is no need for us to go back to the time of the Crusades in order to know the level of civilization in Europe at that time. We need to go back no further than a few hundred years to the days of the Ottoman Empire and compare between the Ottomans and the Europeans to see what level the Ottoman civilization had reached." Okay, so she's saying you don't need to go back all the way to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is go back a few hundred years. In 1624, less than 400 years ago, Prince Brandenburg wrote the following on the invitations to the banquet he sent to other princes and nobles. Guests are requested not to plunge their hands up to their elbow in the dishes, nor to throw food behind them, nor to lick their fingers, nor to spit on their plates, and not to blow their noses on the edges of the tablecloth. You know, it's amazing. And that's what I call the colonial mindset on all of us. Whichever country you come from, we've been colonized. Colonialism hit us. Norm. They're eating and they're spitting. They're eating and they're throwing food. They're eating and they're blowing their nose. They're not civilized people. Believe me, they're not civilized people. If you are going to say Europeans are more civilized than Muslims, you don't know your Islam. Europeans are not more civilized. They could not rule England until or unless they colonized the world to realize what the Khilafah gave to the world. How to run a system. They didn't even know how to run a system of governance. They're not clean. Their clothing are not clean still till today. They use perfume on perfume. You don't need to use perfume when your clothes are clean, when your body is clean. This is in 1624. The prince is telling the guest, don't just stick they used to stick their arms in the food. Like, who does that? Our Islam says, and remember Rasulullah was sitting down, I think it was Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala, or one of Hassan Hussein, their hands were going in the dish. And the Rasulullah said, no, when you eat with 3 fingers, eat from your side, eat like this. He taught them, right? Hand was just playing in the food, and that's a child. These are adults. Forget hands. It's detested in Islam for you to use all your hand. Yes, if it's, for example, you're eating something like couscous. If you ate couscous you can't eat with fingers. You really can't. There's an art to that. You bring it down, and how they make couscous is a mountain of couscous, and in the middle is a volcano. In the volcano is the meat and the vegetables and stuff and the gravy. And now in Morocco, we were like, okay, how do we eat this thing? Because you're eating dry. You're coughing until you get to the meat. So what the Moroccans do, they kind of make a channel. When you eat together, they make a channel down from there, so the meat, the gravy starts coming down. And then when it starts coming down, they break it up, and they do this. They pick up the couscous, they make it into a ball. When they make it a ball, they throw it into their mouth. That's how it's eaten. That's fine. No one's saying eat ice cream with your fingers, or cereal, or Fruit Loops with your fingers. And no one's saying use your whole hand, but based on what you're eating, know how to use your hand. This is how they used to eat. The author adds, these words clearly indicate the level of civilization, culture, knowledge, and manners amongst Europeans. At the same time, in another part of Europe, the situation was not much different. In the palace of the King of England, George the First. Okay, again, we say British, oh mashallah, itne tahzeeb log hai. There's no tahzeeb, I'm sorry. There's only tahzeeb in a person who has been taught tahzeeb. And tahzeeb means method of life and manner was taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tell me anyone else who taught tahzeeb. Did the Buddha teach tahzeeb? He taught how to disconnect. Tahzeeb is in our religion. We own it. We should be proud of it. We shouldn't give credit to anyone else. The ugly smell emanating from the persons of the king. The king himself smelled so bad, and his family overpowered the grandeur of their fine lace-edged French clothes. They smelled so bad that even their clothes went bad. This is what was happening in Europe. Okay? Meanwhile, in Istanbul, the seat of the Khilafah, it was well known that the European ambassadors who were authorized by the Ottoman state would be thrown into baths before they can approach the Sultan. You're not even going to come meet the Sultan until you take a bath. Right? Sometime around 1730, during the reign of Sultan Ahmad III, when the Ottoman state entered its political and military decline, the wife of the English ambassador in Istanbul, Lady Montague, wrote many letters which were later published, in which she described the level of cleanliness, good manners, and high standards amongst the Muslims. In one of her memoirs, she wrote that the Ottoman princess Hafiza had given her a gift of a towel that had been hand embroidered. She liked it so much that she could not even bear to wipe her mouth with it. The Europeans were particularly astonished by the fact that the Muslims used to wash their hands before and after every meal. What did I just say? That even, let me just turn the volume off, I'm so sorry. That the fact that we wash our hands after food astonished them. And in every American restaurant, you'll see employees must wash hands before. Do you have to teach people that? Do I have to teach an employee to wash their hand before they come and cook someone's food? No. But sadly, in this country, yes. Why? Because they don't think that that's an important factor. One is you're eating your food, and in that you don't wash your hands. Why would you then wash your hands for someone else's food? That's why I say, be very careful of whose food you eat. Because if there is no cleanliness in them, there's no spirituality amongst them, it's not gonna transmit goodness into you. So look at the back in the olden days. Let's think about this. Animals were raised nicely with Allah's kalam. If the shepherd was shepherding the animals, be reading Quran. He's not teaching them maktab. He's just reading Quran. The animal was raised nicely. The animal was slaughtered with Bismillah. The animal was then washed, cut, and then cooked with Allah's name. The people who were cooking at that time, since there's nothing else they can do instead of cooking, they were reading Quran or doing dhikr. And then that food went into your body. And that was a spiritual charge. Nowadays, the animals are being raised traumatized. A 77-day chicken in 1970 today is raised in 22 days. Okay? Now, it's raised like that. It is killed mercilessly. It is then prepared with no care. by people who only want your money, and then it's brought on your table and you eat it. And we talk about psychological problems. Psychological problems have three phases: spiritual, physical, and of course, trauma. Spiritual absence from the food we eat relates back to physical laggard, laziness, depression. Then, if there's a trauma in the home, these three become the perfect storm. The food is killing us in America. I remember my words. Food is killing us in America, not poverty. And so, going back to it, why not start reading Allah's name when we're cooking? Look, we all have to cook somewhere or the other, right? Husband will cook, wife will cook, sometimes kids will cook. Just for example, while you're doing the cooking, you're doing your wazifa for the day, right? You can do two things at one time. You can't hold a Quran, but you could just read your surahs, for example, practice your dua. That is actually impacting the food. At least that is better than not having that. You can control what you're cooking and what you're buying, but you can't control how it's being raised and how it's being slaughtered. At least let's start somewhere. And be very careful of the people who you eat from, because if they're not clean, they will not care about cleanliness for you. And it's not about how it tastes here, sisters and brothers. It's about how it tastes and affects down here. Because when it goes here, it becomes your flesh, it becomes your blood. And the last thing you want is for dead blood and dead flesh to be part of your body, right? The Europeans were particularly astonished by the fact that the Muslims used to wash their hands before and after every meal. It is enough to read the words of the famous English nurse Florence Nightingale, yes, describing English hospitals in the mid-19th century, where she describes how these hospitals were full of squalor, negligence, and moral decay. And the wings of these hospitals were full of sick people who could not help answering the call of nature but on their beds. We talk about hospital systems. Yes, hospital systems. Muslims began the hospital system. Don't go to any hospital system and say, oh man, where did the Muslims go? Muslims started it. The sad part, Muslims didn't continue it. Hospital system, cleanliness, hygiene, quarantine. Look what our hadith teaches us. If there's a plague, Rasulullah is teaching us this. If there's a plague in a land, he said, don't leave it. Don't leave it. Why? If you leave it, you're going to spread it. And if there's a plague in the land, don't enter it, because you may get affected by it. Look at these teachings. What religion teaches you this? What taught us this in society was our mistakes. When we had back in those days, they had yellow fever, typhoid, whatever it was, or they had jaundice or TB, whatever those things were. What killed people more was the unhygiene situation that led to human contraction of these diseases and problems. That's what it was. So she herself explains that those hospitals were full of negligence, moral decay. People were going to the bathroom on their beds. It was disgusting. What a great contrast there is between the refined civilization of Islam and other human civilizations. So, just to remember, the point I'm trying to make here, let us not envy anyone for how they look, how they dress, how they smell. We should be envious and gracious that Allah has given us a religion that we were taught to do that. If there's someone who's clean, I am clean. If there's someone who's representable, I am representable. You know why? Because my religion taught me this. I should take ownership of that and credits of that. Let us not be caught up in the so-called world of deception, because when you look at someone who's wearing all that makeup and that wig and that extension, and you look at them as who they are, they look like two different people. Our Islam said, embrace who you are, how you look, everything and be clean and be presentable. Another aspect of cleanliness is that the Muslimah takes care of her mouth and teeth. Now, what really baffled me was the culture in back home countries of eating ban and eating miswad and all these things that they do, and their teeth are orange and broken up. Is that Islam? The question is this: is that Islam? Do we destroy our teeth in our mouth, which is an interior factor of us? No one sees our mouth unless we open it. No one smells our breath unless we are talking loudly or something. The intelligent Muslim woman takes care of her mouth, for no one should ever have to smell an unpleasant odor coming from it. Now again, well, why did Rasulullah say that the most beloved scent to Allah is the one that emits from the fasting person's mouth? It is scaled as the scent of musk. Well, again, how strange it is that in Ramadan, in the fasting, we're seeking fatwas for using toothpaste and toothbrush and whatever else. Why? Because I have to go to work, and if I smell bad, my co-workers will run from me. Tell me when on Sunday you brush your teeth after waking up. That time it doesn't matter. But when it comes to the times where Allah says, I want you to show me how much you want me, Allah, I can't do that. But when it's not to show anyone else, I wouldn't care the least. She does this by cleaning her teeth with siwak, toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash after every meal. Sisters, I want you to inculcate a sunnah in your homes today, inshallah. For your children also, give them all a miswak. Use a toothbrush, that's fine. But I promise you, what miswak will do to your teeth, toothpaste cannot do. Toothpaste, toothbrush could scrub exterior things and, kind of make the mouth smell good. Miswak actually builds the enamel of the teeth, heals teeth that are weak. It actually purifies the pores through which our tongue could create the odor or stuff. It strengthens the gum. It strengthens the inside of the mouth. It helps keep the vocals and the throat clean. And above all, a person who uses miswak will say the kalima at the time of their death. If none of these beat Listerine and Colgate and Aquafresh, and remember, the one thing that beats it all is the kalima at the time of your death. Make a habit that your children brush and then use miswak. Don't use miswak and then brush. And the sunnah of using miswak is that you take it should always be standing up like our toothbrushes are standing up. Isn't it amazing that how toothbrush holders are made? An old toothbrush stand up. You don't see a laying down toothbrush holder. It's all stand up. Well, that's exactly teaching of miswak. Miswak should always be standing up. Always. So you put the miswak standing up. Now when it's time to use, you take it, you rinse it, you chew it a bit, and then you use it. Once you're finished using it, you put it back. You don't rinse it. When you finish using it, you put it back standing up. It's not rinsed again. You rinse it before you use it again. What is the reason behind it? It's something that the Prophet ﷺ and Allah knows. I don't know. But bring those miswaks back. And if you can, get a hold of fresh miswaks. We have all those packet miswaks. They're kind of compromised because their flavor or something is added to it. Then they're vacuumed. And when you open up, it smells good and it kind of tastes good for like a day or so, and then it's dead. Why? Because it was all artificial. If you ever go to Umrah, buy a whole bunch of them. You get them from the streets for like 10 riyals. And if the guy's sitting there cutting there, take a piece of it and put in your mouth. I promise you, your mouth will burn. Those things are so fresh, it's worse than, it's stronger than peppermint or spearmint. It burns your whole mouth. You literally have to spit it out. Those are fresh roots of miswak. You put a little in your mouth, you bite it a few times, it is so strong. But what's it doing to your mouth? What is it doing to your brain? What is it doing to your body? In comparison to what these toothpastes are doing with fluoride to our brains, what does fluoride do to the brain? It eats away on the brain. So fluoride toothpaste should not be in your homes. Studies have been done to show what fluoride has done to our children. Our children are only guinea pigs to the society. That's all they are. So remember, fluoride toothpaste is a no-no. Miswak will do what fluoride can't do. So keep a miswak next to their toothbrushes and teach them how to use that, inshallah. She checks her teeth and visits the dentist at least once a year, even if she does not feel any pain, in order to keep her teeth healthy and strong. She consults her oral hygienist, or she also consults her ENT doctor if necessary, so that her breath will remain clean and fresh. This is undoubtedly more befitting for a woman. So basically, our mouth, our ears, our nose kind of connect with the sinus cavities, and sometimes the sinus infection could cause bad odor. So have yourself check up, is what the author's saying. Going to a dentist isn't a harmful thing. You should go to a dentist, even though there's not something immediately needed to go to a dentist, just for a checkup and a cleanup. It's always good. And one thing that makes a big difference in oral hygiene is flossing, because nowadays the foods that we eat and things that we do, it actually like the things that we drink, the teas, the cold drinks, the food, it actually starts causing bacteria between the teeth, and as much as you brush, it's not going to take it out. So flossing is also a very important practice that helps strengthen gums and keep our teeth and gums clean. Aisha radiallahu anha used to be very diligent in taking care of her teeth. She never neglected to clean them with the siwak, as Bukhari and Muslim report from a number of Sahaba. So not only did she do it, but numerous Sahaba narrated this. This is her personal life. But Sahabas knew it. Why? Because it's an important practice. Urwa radiallahu anha narrates that we heard Aisha, the mother of believers radiallahu anha, cleaning her teeth in the room. So they would even hear her cleaning her teeth. Imam Muslim also reports from Urwa via Ata radiallahu ta'ala, we heard her using the siwak. Aisha radiallahu anha says, the Messenger of Allah sallam never woke up from sleep at any time in the day or night without cleaning his teeth with a siwak before performing wudu. So sometimes the first thing he would do before going to sleep, the last thing he would do was using his miswak. The first thing he would do before going to the bathroom and doing wudu was the miswak. It'd be the first thing in his mouth and the last thing out of his mouth. As soon as you wake up, you're doing a miswak. But as the British do, they wake up and they smoke a cigarette, right? It's the first thing they have to do when they wake up in the morning. Brothers and sisters, I just ask you one thing, because we have a lot of people who are watching online also, and a lot of families are watching. Smoking, the odor is detestable. If you pray salah with onions or garlic, the angels don't come close to you. You know what happened in salah? The angels literally put their mouth against your mouth and they want to absorb the Quran recitation. It's power for them. Oh, you have garlic sauce with Papa John pizza, huh? Or you ate lasan and you ate onions, you're coming to the masjid. Zohar time's the worst. They come with lunch and then after third rakat they're burping so loud you can smell the whole masjid. It's not what you're supposed to do. Clean yourself. And don't eat raw onions and garlic like that, because it will make the odor of your mouth a means of even the angels leaving you. Right? Think about this. And what to say for those who smoke? That smell becomes a part of their body, a part of their clothing, and smoking doesn't help anyone. Yes, we're all stressed. Yes, we all have a lot on our table and a lot on our plate. There's a lot of things to do. But smoking doesn't solve it. These practices have to stop. And these practices didn't start in this country. As I said, I think last week also, these practices are continuing from back home. The same concept of ban with tobacco, or what you call beardies and all this stuff. What is the purpose behind these things? There is no stress that the Quran cannot heal. There is no predicament that Allah cannot help you and empower you with. Why do we have to resort to this? So we have to create an environment in the home, if there's someone in the home who's smoking, or someone in our family who's smoking, or brothers or sisters or anyone else, that this is not going to end well for them, and it's not going to be well for the people around them, because secondhand smoke is worse. right? Secondhand smoke is worse than smoking itself. So think about these things. It's very important. Um, Oral hygiene, how we present in front of Allah, it means a lot. The Prophet Muhammad's concern for all hygiene was so great that he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if it were not for the fact that I did not want to overburden my ummah, I would have ordered them to use siwak before every prayer. Meaning, if I didn't fear that all of us would be overwhelmed, I would have commanded everyone to make miswak before prayer. But just like Taraweeh did not become farad on us, why? Because if we let go of Taraweeh, we would be committing a sin in Ramadan. But we knew the mansha of Rasulullah same way. He didn't command it, but it's his mansha and desire that we use miswak before every prayer. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala was asked what the Prophet ﷺ used to do first when he came home. She said he would use the miswak. Huh? First thing coming home, taking care of his mouth. There should never be a time in a man or woman's, of husband or wife, a parent or child's life, but our mouth should always be clean. It is very strange to see that some Muslim women neglect these matters, which are amongst the most important elements of a woman's character besides being at the very heart of Islam. They are amongst the most important elements of a woman's gentle nature, and they reveal her feminine elegance and beauty. They are also at the heart of Islam because the Prophet Muhammad urged cleanliness on many occasions, and he detested unpleasant odors and ugly appearances. He said, whoever eats onions, garlic, or leeks should not approach our masajid, because whatever offends the sons of Adam may offend the angels. What did I just say? So a person, think about this. I said this a while ago, and I said it just last week. I don't know where I said it. I said in Houston in a conference on Saturday that Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah said, if doing a good deed is easy for you, question what you're doing. If it's easy to come to masjid every day 5 times, but you're coming with a cigarette smell or a garlic smell, Shaitan has made it easy for you. Because any act of worship isn't to be easy. Consistency is the hardest thing to get in any act of worship. I come to the masjid every day, which mashallah is good. But then if you're backbiting, Shaitan will actually put the red carpet for you to come to the masjid. Because he wants you to come. Because what you're doing for him is more than what you're doing for yourself and for Allah. No act of worship is easy. And if it's becoming easy, check there's something that's wrong that's making it easy. Because Allah's tawfiq to make istiqamah comes after a lot of effort. So, coming to the masjid with dirty clothing, we tell children off when they wear shorts at the masjid. We tell children off when they wear pictures on their shirts in the masjid. They're coming, right, to the masjid? They were playing and now they're praying. There needs to be effort. But do we ever tell off a sister or brother whose clothing smells? Whose mouth smells? No, they're religious, they're pious people. These are the fundamental. Why are we doing this book, sisters? This is the fundamental of any teaching. If we don't have these 10 points that this book is creating that tree from your connection with Allah, your connection with yourself, your connection with your spouse, your family, your friends, the society. If we don't have that tree down, it doesn't matter what we learn. It does not help us. So this is the fundamental teachings. You cannot say I'm religious and your teeth look worse than what it looks on the 31st of October. It cannot. They are contradictive. Deen means clean body. Deen and religiosity means clean hair and clean clothing. Religiousness and piety means a clean breath and clean teeth. You cannot tell me this is religion and what I see is contradictive to religion. As much as we are so gung-ho on making sure someone dressed modestly, we should be that adamant that that person, meaning ourselves, dresses cleanliness with cleanliness also. We should be clean in our dress also. We should be clean in our appearance also. We should be clean in our hair also, which has to be the topic of next week. She takes care of her hair. We'll leave that for next week, because next week, inshallah, cleanliness of the hair, good appearance, beautiful discussions. A good appearance is going to go on for quite a while. And then we're talking about the mind. A sign of your desperation, disconnect, depression is how your exterior is. I can't control a husband, I can't control children, I can't control a wife, I can't control neighbors, I can't control relatives, and I can't control friends, right? But I want you to say this to yourself, I can control myself. And I can control myself and my relationship with my Allah, because my Allah is always happy. When I'm clean, I'm in a state of cleanliness, I'm dressed up, I'm happy for Allah. He's happy, I'm happy. That's all I care about. Because Allah, if He doesn't say to me that you're mashallah looking nice, He will not talk behind my back and say I'm looking ugly. That's Allah. You may not hear Him comment, but you will not hear Him also criticize you. So this is all for Allah at the end of the day. The last thing we want to talk about, so we could go prayer sunnah inshallah, is the Prophet ﷺ banned. Remember what this hadith said? The Prophet ﷺ banned those who had eaten these vegetables that emit odors from coming anywhere near the mosque, lest the people and the angels be offended by their bad breath. But these smells pale into insignificance beside the stench of dirty clothes, filthy socks, unwashed bodies, unclean mouths that emanates from some careless and unkempt individuals who offend others in gatherings. So as the author says, as much as the Rasulullah ﷺ banned those from coming to the mosque with the smell of the mouth, think about the smell of their clothing, their socks, their bodies, and everything else. Why do you think we have 2 azans for Jumu'ah? Why do you think we have 2 azans for Jumu'ah? The first azan is called to say, stop work, go home and take a shower and wear good clothing. Because one of the things Sahabas were complaining about when they came for Jumu'ah prayer with Rasulullah ﷺ, it smelled. And why wouldn't it? They're laborers. They're, cutting trees or farming and stuff. And they're coming to the Jumu'ah prayer and it smells. So go home, take a shower, wear good clothing, and then come for the prayer. For those of us who are in the workplace and working, inshallah, the workplace and the work isn't as strenuous anymore. But if it is, a quick wash down, they even have these type of wipes. You could just wipe your body nowadays, like a quick bath type of thing. Wear something else and just come to the masjid. There's some things we can control, and there's some things we can't control. But if we can control what we can control, at least it eliminates most of the problem. If you're working at a place that is a bakery and it's going to smell like bread and you're going to come smelling like bread, you can't control that. That's fine. But you can control what you put in your mouth and how you smoke and whatever you do. That you can control, right? So we need to understand that what we're learning right now is so important in the foundation stones of building us into who we should be, so that then we can become who Allah wants us to become. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all to cleanliness, guide us all to purity, internal and external, physical and spiritual, and make us amongst those who are pleasing in front of Him and pleasing to His eyes and to that of the angels and that to all the creation. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Any question? I think we have time for just one question. Any question?